I just got back from a vacation. It was my first international trip in 6 years, but something was different this time.
I was actually excited to come home from a vacation.
Can you guess where we went? We went on a random, kind of spontaneous friend trip to Quebec City, Canada. Had a great time, very beautiful place. Because I had a handful of flights to take and had a lot of downtime, I had time to kind of reflect on why it was I was feeling this way. What stood out to me the most, outside of missing Mia, which physically hurt, was the only difference between this trip and the last international trip 6 years ago was that 5 years ago, I started painting, which led to content creation and then now filmmaking. This was the first time, instead of the typical post-vacation blues, that I was genuinely excited to come home, to work on projects that I had already started and then several that I kind of had in the pipeline. So I was just sitting there and realizing the insane impact that creating has had on my life. So if you're someone that's been on the fence about picking up a new artistic skill or getting into filmmaking or any just content creation in general. In this video, I want to use my story and also just to break down 3 reasons that you need to start creating just anything in your life. The first and most obvious based on this story is that living a creative life gives you purpose. It gives you something to always look forward to. As I've gotten older, I've realized just how important it is for us as individuals to have purpose in life. I think it's very common for us to spend our entire life sort of searching for something. We don't really know what that is, and it can lead to a lot of people feeling lost. I truly believe that learning an art form or finding a skill that allows you to use your creativity can give you that purpose in a really profound way. So in this traveling example, normally I would have had to come back home and come, back to reality, as they would say. So work, school, bills, whatever, your responsibilities in life. But suddenly, you're actually eager to get back and resume working on whatever thing it is that you do. For example, I started working on this painting before we left. I'm loving it so far, and I was honestly annoyed that I wasn't able to finish it before we left. But as the trip was winding down, instead of the normal, being sad that it was ending, I was excited that when I got home, I could pick up where I left off. I think it's really important for you to have things in your life that you love to do and to have things in your life that you're always looking forward to. The beauty in finding purpose in creating things is that it's not necessarily always tied to feedback or having to share it with other people. Just working on a painting or working on a short film fulfills me. It gives me satisfaction or pride in myself to complete projects or to come up with ideas and then actually bring them to life. So I feel like creating has given my life purpose that was previously missing, because permanently for the rest of my life, I always have something to look forward to. Reason number 2 that you should start creating in your life, and I honestly think this is the most underrated and I never hear it talked about, is time usage. Living a creative life has drastically changed how I use my time and the decisions that I make. I cannot stress this enough. For example, pre-creating, I would fill downtime in my life with anything. Sometimes it was sports, but a lot of the time it would end up being going out to hang out with friends and late nights out. But now just the thought of my whole night being taken up by going out, or my morning being ruined by sleeping in or a hangover, seems awful. I'd rather be working on a new video all night, or waking up in the morning and brainstorming my sort of to-do list for the week and then working on a painting right after that, after I've had a coffee. Like, that sounds amazing to me. Just the thought of having all these things to look forward to has helped me make way better decisions with how I spend my time. Before, I'd probably get bored and shop online and buy a bunch of things that I don't even need. But now if I do splurge, it's probably on new art supplies or better equipment, which all comes full circle in art sales or things where my creations make returns. In the past, if I was bored, I would probably just consume nonsense or doom scroll away on social media. Now I watch YouTube videos on editing techniques or just other ways to kind of sharpen my artistic skill set. This Darren Naylor guy's pretty good. It's just a completely different way of spending mental and physical time. In fact, I've even learned how to double dip. I love golf so much, but it takes up so much damn time. So I had to start compromising. If I was gonna go golf for 5 hours, then the compromise was I was gonna bring a camera or find some way to gather content so that I could make videos with it later, so that I would at least feel like I was still being productive during these large amounts of time. It's not great for the old golf game though, so I'll tell you that. So I don't do that every time. Ever since I began creating things, I just feel like I'm more productive and responsible with my time. And it's just not something that I ever realized would have that big of a positive impact on my life. And the third and final reason that you should start creating things in your life is constant inspiration. I'm literally always thinking of ideas. Back to the travel example. I'm pretty scared to fly now. And I didn't used to be, which is really annoying. I've been flying for like going on 20 years. I've been on hundreds of flights. The last international trip that I mentioned earlier was 8 countries in 3 weeks. I don't even know how many flights it was. I didn't used to think about a thing. I used to love flying. I used to feel inspired on flights. It was a very, very fun, exciting experience for me. And I had an experience on a flight that triggered some anxiety that I never had in my life, popped up one day, long story. And then I had 2 back-to-back really turbulent flights. And for some reason after that, I was no longer excited to fly and get really bad anxiety leading up to flying. It sucks. It's not great. The point of this is, leading up to this trip, I was very anxious again. Not looking forward to it. But I thought to myself, you know what, maybe it will be healing in some way to make a short film about this. I've never really talked about it before. I'm kind of embarrassed that I even deal with that now. Maybe if I document some of this and turn this into a short film, that this will help in some way. Or maybe if it doesn't help me, it'll help other people, or it's just something that I get to create based on my life and my experience. And this was just something I didn't have before. When I wasn't into filmmaking or content creating, you know, I would have just gone and suffered through all this stuff and just never talked about it. It can sort of help you take back control of maybe some things you're dealing with. But the beauty of it is you get to turn any experience that you have, whether good or bad, into something. It's like that corny saying, what's bad for your heart is good for your art. Get it? And I think that's just a really interesting superpower to being able to create and living a creative life. And now you have this ability to turn it into something. So another example, all from the same trip, there was this moment where these 2 girls walked out of this cafe and it was starting to rain. There was a man who kind of a street performer, but he's out there playing the piano really beautifully. And they both come out, you know, they pop their umbrellas and they're standing there and they're listening to this guy. And they're all complete strangers and they're just enjoying each other's company. And it was just this really beautiful moment that I captured, but it gave me an idea for a painting where maybe somebody's out playing the piano in the rain and one person's holding the umbrella over them. Like, it's just, your mind starts going to all of these places. Instead of just observing that and thinking, oh, that's a cool moment, you start looking at something and you think, I would love to tell that story, you know, via a painting or a short film, or maybe I can spin that into something else. And it's just one of my absolute favorite parts about living creative life in any way. The world around you is just this constant well of inspiration that you get to go down into and come out with new ideas. And then it's up to you to turn it into something. Anyway, I just wanted to share this because I came back from this trip feeling extremely grateful for painting, for filmmaking, for just creativity in general, to have sort of stumbled into a creative life a little later in life at 30, 35 now. It's just given my life this whole extra meaning and purpose, and I just love it. I used to kind of come to YouTube for a variety of things. You know, sometimes you are just looking for inspiration. So I just wanted to share this because if you're someone that maybe is trying to find what art form, or if I want to get into filmmaking or painting or pottery or whatever it is, my advice to you is just to start creating things. I do several different things. So if I were you, I would worry less about what that thing is now and worry more about just starting to create, experiment, try a bunch of different things, see what fits. And I hope that living a more creative life gives you as much meaning and purpose as it has given me. So I just wanted to share that. Anyway, had a great time on the trip, but very happy to be back, if you haven't gathered that yet by all the rambling. Anyway, as mentioned, I need to finish this. So can you get out? Santé.